Rihanna's here too.
Hi.
You can say hi.
Hang on, I've got it. Okay, now I've got it.
Now I've got
Apparently.
it too. Sunday Live Chat. This time going all the way down under with a special guest on Sunday Live Chat today, Mr. Tom Ellard.
Good evening.
Welcome, Tom. Oi. What is the official way to say hello in Australia? Is there a word?
Yeah, hello. No, well, you know, it's been a very long time since we've been isolated from the rest of the world. So, you know, pretty much we just say the same shit as we see on the television, which is American shit. So, you know, I mean, I could put it on for you if you like. G'day, mate. How you going?
G'day, that was it. That was what I wanted to
yeah, that
say.
sort of shit. Yeah.
Good day, mate.
But that'd be like you talking like John Wayne, you know?
Well, I was surprised that you were saying a second ago that it's been freezing cold and raining down there perpetually like Blade Runner.
Yeah. It's the El Nino things happening between Los Angeles and Sydney. Like we're actually connected. You and I are like basically got this weather pattern going between us. Whenever you have a drought, we have a flood. Whenever we have a flood, you have you're having nothing but droughts at the moment. I think, are you doing all right up there or?
How are we?
We're
Are we?
Yeah.
Like, so it's starting to get hot.
Right.
And it's actually been, I don't know.
I don't remember the last time it rained.
I don't remember the last time it rained again. One of those things.
Yeah.
So it's all down there.
Well, it just rains. It just rains and rains and rains. And so everything's covered in mold. It's kind of like everything's got this sort of green shimmer all over it. You have to kind of like clean everything off before you can sit on it or or eat it or play it.
It's been already 2 years since the last time that we chatted. I can't believe that time is flying. 25 months to be exact.
Yeah. Well, we've been in jail.
We truly have. You know, I guess like it's fair to say, you know, everyone has a story. So what's your story, mate?
Well, we're an island. That's the big story. And so you can actually shut the borders.
Right.
And within about a week of COVID being identified, they shut the borders and that's it. No one can fly in, no one can fly out. No one, the entire place is like shut off. And that's great in some ways, in that it gave us a bit of extra time, you know, like the number of people dying was very small. And then the vaccines came along and then basically, but the moment you open it, the moment you open the borders, of course, it comes pouring in. So we kind of like, it was all this kind of phony war kind of stuff for a while there. You could go out, you could do things and it was fine. And the rest of the world was like dying. And then it came and when it came. And so we're now having similar, you know, like it's not bad here, but it's not great. But I was like vaccinated like 3 times before, you know, we even had the things, but you couldn't travel. And you're still at the point now where travel is almost, it's very difficult. The airfares sort of, if you could get on a plane, you might have to pay 3 times as much and it might not go and you might not. So it was kind of like pretty hard. So we haven't been able to leave or go anywhere for like 2 years sort of thing. You had to love your lounge room. And Tara and myself have both had COVID and it wasn't too bad. We've been locked up. It was great because the police would come around and knock on your door and make sure you weren't out anywhere, you know, like.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, well, you know, if you like, you had to carry your mobile phone would have all this tracking thing on it and you'd have to sign in and sign out of anywhere.
Wow.
So I've still got mine. I mean, I quite like, you know, it's quite comforting really that when you go somewhere, you'd know absolutely everybody who've had to have used a QR code to get in there. So I mean, I'm kind of like, you know, I'm a safety first person, and I like to know if I'm in a shopping center that everyone else is fucking, you know, vaccinated. So the problem was, though, then of course, if you weren't vaccinated, then you couldn't get your code. And if you couldn't get your code, you couldn't get in. And so there are some people who are upset about that, you know, not like America, which is like fucking crazy, but you know, like we're always less fucking crazy than fucking America. So, you know.
So, I mean, I gather that now we're seeing that here in America, people have progressed so like the not caring has just progressed so far.
Yeah.
That in a way, they're almost claim like it built up the immunity faster here. That's what they're saying. So
Yeah.
that's why they have people thinking that everything's okay, and maybe it is a good way to approach it as compared to Shanghai. Or what about New Zealand? Like they were really shut down, and now they've had just the skyrocket of cases.
Yeah, but it gives you time to be, you know, like, yeah, sure, we were imprisoned for a couple of years, and I don't think anyone in America would we're a different culture, so people kind of understood, but I don't think in America people would understand. But you were imprisoned, and in that time, all the solutions that we're used to came out. You know, like there was no fucking vaccines up front. There was nothing. It was absolutely nothing. It was like AIDS. You see, that's the thing. People now live with AIDS. If I get something wrong here, please don't. You know, I'm trying my best. But you know, like to have AIDS was a death sentence. You would just fucking die.
Yeah, at the time.
And if you could lock people up for a while and find the cure to AIDS, and then make it so people could go about a reasoning, I think it's a better deal. I mean, I know that, you know, you're originally from Canada. You know what it's like to have a queen.
Yes.
Queen versus you.
Yep.
You know, you're littered. It's Her Majesty versus you in court, you know, Rex versus. So we've got this different mentality. Commonwealth countries just have this different way of thinking, you know. We were, you know, Tara and I were going to go to Florida. That was the big plan, and like I had people I was going to be recording with. I was going to, you know, get the music happening with a new band and everything. Fucking, you know, it's all being done this way. It's like, you know, do keyboards and shit over fucking Zoom. You know, it's like.
Yeah.
Who's fast? Are you fast or I fast? Who's fast here? But you know, in the long run, you could actually do it though. You could actually collaborate on the electric wiring. So that it kind of. But yeah, I missed out on a whole fuckload of career shit. You know.
But has it held you back? I mean, did you find other ways to do these things?
Look. It hasn't been a great help. It hasn't been a great help. If you were sort of separated out from the rest of humanity for 2 years, it doesn't do your music career any favors, you know. And I
agree.
Yeah.
You know what's weird, Tom, is that, you know, I'm in LA, but we also just never go out. Rihanna and I just have stayed home perpetually pretty much for the whole time. And so the isolation is, I guess, self-imposed, depending on how far we get out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I find it very difficult as well to keep. I finished a project over the course of beginning of COVID, but then as soon as I was finished that, I thought like the impetus to start a project was a little bit different. It was like, okay, can I idealize working with all these external elements going on? And in some cases, like people that say, you know, we all make a type of music that's kind of caters to this environment. It's like, as you said, Blade Runner, you've got the perfect weather for it. Now you've got almost the perfect setting for this dystopian type of music. I don't know. Has it helped or has it hindered?
Well, it just accelerated. I mean, you know, I'm a bit of a cracked record on this. That we've just got to stop making more fucking albums. You know,
Yeah.
it's like laying eggs. It's just the chicken just keeps on laying eggs and laying eggs and laying eggs. I
I love that.
really feel that this is the year 2022. Blade Runner first edition was quite a while ago now. What was that, 2018, 2019 or something that Blade Runner was supposed to be in?
Yeah.
We all should be onto something new. And so that's kind of like the major priority for me is like not so much like, oh my God, now I'm out of the can, I can start pumping out, you know, here comes vinyl, woo, here's more vinyl. It's really like a bit of a meditative period. You've been given a little bit of time in a monk's cell, and what should I be doing? The collective I, what should I be doing as a cultural leader in this new phase of life that we're in now? We've gone through this kind of enforced confinement, and in that time you've been given a lot of time to think, and in your case you've stayed at home and you've made it a personal meditative period. We should be coming out with a new energy. Like let's do the history lesson. You think about the 1920s, and you know the period, the First War, and the Great Plague of that period, and out of that came Dadaism, and which led to Surrealism, and we had the growth of the jazz turning into all rock and roll eventually. I mean, there was an enormous cultural explosion that came out of the tribulations of the 20th century. And here we are, and we're in the 21st century, and we've been through these tribulations, and you go, well, what's going to come out of that? What sort of explosive of new forms is going to come out of that? And it's go, oh, here's an album from 1980 something on vinyl. It's like, really? And you know, the reason that we can have a talk like this and people are prepared to listen to two old men in rocking chairs on the porch is that we're supposed to be leading. We've got the privilege of being listened to. We've got the privilege of experience of working in the field and all of that. And you and I are the people who should be like punching the ceiling, and this is where we go. And that's really the thing that's on my mind all the time is, okay, so like making music at the moment's been really, really bad. And, you know, I've had a few things I loved, which have disappeared into the ether, never to be seen again. Okay, cool. But where are we going? And like I'm like a music teacher. I mean, this is my teaching rig I'm on at the moment for university music studies. I don't want to teach the kids how to do, you know, the same stuff as they were doing 100 years ago. Crazy, you know. What do you say?
Well, I'm really interested to hear how you get around that with the students and say, here's a starting point.
Yeah.
Because I think a starting point, I loved how you've always had such alternative methods of thinking to have wonderful starting points. And so do you try to bring in, like, for instance, tape decks, or try to get people back into physical things?
No. They do that. The kids are like, you know, can we work with tape recorders? And I say, to hell with tape recorders. You know, like the first year, one of the things I do with the first years is like there's some software that you do a street view. So, you know, you can get your phone and you can like do a 360 with this thing, and you can do a street view at home or walking down the street or somewhere special that you've been. And I say, what I want you to do is I want you to capture a street view, And I want you to position sound in this sphere that tells the story of this place, or tells a story about how you see this space, or completely negates the space. Like, let's take a picture of a beach. Can you make that sound like somewhere else in the universe just purely by sound? And the sound is rotational. So as you turn this sphere, it's coming from you in all directions. It's kind of like it's a 360 kind of thing. And that's an example of the sort of thing which I think is of the moment and needs to build up its own kind of musical culture. I mean, how do you paint the picture of a place in music in one of these spheres? And it's all for free as well. I mean, the software is, you don't have to pay for it. It's kind of like stuff that you can get. And so the kids just have to come up with a way of telling a story in this space. Really, it's a no-brainer for where people should be studying now, I think.
And so that ends up with a musical product?
Well, it doesn't have to be a product.
Or a result.
No, a result. Yeah, I think that some of the issues. I mean, I'm too old to identify all the issues. An old man shouldn't be telling you what to think about it, now. But I think the whole idea of the surround imagery, surround sound, the orchestration of space, like, if you work with 3D sound, if you're working with something which is in the sphere, the thing that we used to do was you get all the instruments together, like the guitars, the bass, the drums, whatever it is, and then you would mix them and you would make a mix. Whereas now you just position them. It's like, where are these sounds is the mix. And if you want to change the mix over time, things have to come towards you or away from you or above you or below you. So you're throwing away that whole kind of like Abbey Road, Beatles, this is how you mix stuff. Oh my God, we've gone from 4-track to 8-track. That's such a win. How about infinite track? How about not about how many tracks there are, but just the whole thing at once is a new way of thinking about music. Do you want the bass to be louder? Well, then get the bass player to walk towards you. So it gets louder.
You guys were always a reaction against like the death of rock music and sort of like the death of punk. And in some ways have you seen anything what gives you an idea that you may be witness to anything new lately within your students or within the youth today?
There's that cat thing. That's given me a lot of no. Look, I see lots of struggle going on. I see the old and the new fighting, and the thing is, the old is dominating everything. Like every time somebody comes out on vinyl, everyone gets very excited, like, oh, it's come out on vinyl. I've got to get it on vinyl. I'm going to get the vinyl thing, because it's this physical object. It's this thing that you can hang on to. And really, honestly, I mean, what they're buying is a book. It's all about the book. I mean, no one plays the damn vinyl. It's just the fact that there's this physical object which you can hang on to, and so one of the ways you could go with this thing is with physicality. You could just basically talk about things which were not vinyl records; they were like physical things. But there's also like all kinds of other ways that you can provide value in something. But it's harder to explain. That's the thing. If I say vinyl, everyone goes, I understand. If I say 3-dimensional sphere in which the sounds are located and you can turn the sphere around your head, everyone goes, it's harder to sell the culture. And that's something maybe I'm not very good at, and somebody else needs to do that.
I think it's awesome though that you're in the position where someone may come along and startle you with something to make you stand back and say, wait, am I witnessing something here that is evolutionary, is the next step, that as a result of this whole crisis and separation and everything that we are going to give birth to something, and maybe it's in its genesis.
They've got to get angry. that's the problem. I don't think the kids are angry enough. They don't hate us enough.
I don't know. I don't know if it was like hate or whatever that created like the end of like, you know, what brought on the whole beauty of the music scene that, I mean, 1979, when you guys started, basically at that time, I remember the music scene was at such a crossroads intersection. You know, you could go any way. You had no idea really what truly which way it was going to go. And I'll bet that you and Richard Fielding and Andrew Wright, when you guys first got together, I mean, you had to have a sense of, you knew where you wanted to steer things, because was it a form of knowing, or was it a form of just following an intuition?
Oh, that era was dominated by the Germans, the krautrock thing going on, and people like Throbbing Gristle, who were old people who'd come out of the Fluxus movement. They were like actioning people. They would do installation work, and they made up a fake band. That was just one of their performances. Was, you know, they're actually a theater troupe, and we'll pretend to be a band, and we'll call ourselves Throbbing Gristle because that's the most stupid name we could think of, but it means, you know, what it means. And basically that was a template that very small people like ourselves could come along with, and we could start a band and we could call it Severed Heads, which was an equally stupid name for something. But these guys were actually, they'd been around for a fair while. They were a little bit more canny than we were. We were just a bunch of kids making a racket. But no, we were lucky enough that Australia was very much still under the domination of English press. And so everything that happened in England would be constantly reported to Australia, and you'd be aware of what was going on and stuff like that. And there was a definite movement going on up in the Manchester, Sheffield area that you were hearing about. I don't think we were angry, but we were well aware that the year 1980 was coming and that there needed to be explosions to celebrate that change, because the 70s was such a dreadfully tedious and boring period. In retrospect, it wasn't, but it seemed right. when you're a 16-year-old, it was. Yeah. And so, you know, there was a lot of templates to play with, but they were people who really didn't know. Like when Throbbing Gristle were play acting being a band, I mean, they had an out. They could say, we're not really a band, we're just a theatre group pretending to be a band. But that uncertainty, that confidence that comes from we're not really a band, meant that they could do lots of interesting things that bands wouldn't do. And our excuse was, well, we really don't know what we're doing at all. And we're just making stuff up from scratch. And that was also a way of saying you can't take us too seriously. Just that we never wanted to be treated seriously. We always just wanted to be a bunch of kids making a racket. Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, well, see, that's later on. What you're looking at there is when older people kind of found us and started dressing us up in funny costumes. There was an art gallery called Art Units, and the people that ran it did screen printing. They screen printed all of those back walls and the clothing. The reason we looked pissed off is that we really, really hated this whole thing. We really didn't want to be there.
And who's the other two guys? I don't know. I don't know if I recognize them.
Well, Gary Bradbury's over on the left there.
Okay, Gary on the left, R.I.P.
And Simon Nucky is on the right.
Okay, so that's Simon. And you had a name for him,
Yeah, we called him Simon Insecticutor. Insecticutor was a thing that killed bugs in fish and chip shops. It was a Simon Insecticutor. and really, in that photo, we do not believe in any of the shit that's happening to us. This is a joke. This is seriously a joke. and it's a funny picture in a way, because the other two guys are dead now, and so it's kind of like a collection of dead people around me. So there you go. It's probably kind of giving me nightmares now. Thank you very much.
I'll move on. I wanted to just talk about the feelings you have when you look back on it now, as your history of this time.
Well, tell me about your childhood.
What would you like to
See
know?
what I mean? It's childhood. I have very little interest in this whole period at all. It's just a series of childhood photos. If you got
You gotta love Stephen
somebody
Jones.
new, and you meet somebody new, and you go around to their parents' place, and they get out the baby book and they show all the baby. Oh, look, here's Kevin when he was 2. Oh, here's Kevin when this is the first time that Kevin walked.
Am I torturing you?
No, but I want to be clear that if you are something in motion.
Wait, is that
I'm
a
in motion.
keytar?
Sorry?
Is that a keytar there, Tom?
Probably. I don't think it actually was. I think it was just something that I've actually stuck things on the sides of it and just basically.
Yeah, it doesn't have a neck. I see. You're right.
And yeah, I don't know. See, that's stop for that one. So that's the old video studio. So that's where we basically would do the videos and stuff. And at that moment, when this photo is being taken, the English press is trying to turn us into the Smiths or something. It's just like there's this whole kind of layer of expectation being ladled on us, and you can see the expressions on everyone's faces it's still like, this is bullshit. We weren't really kind of like buying into any of this stuff, because you know what the English are like. They'll love something for 5 minutes and then throw it in the bin. And so this is the 5 minutes going on here. I've still got that skull t-shirt on. I think the idea was I'd paid personally for that whole damn skull t-shirt, so I was going to wear the damn thing. The gallery that I was part of, I had all my gear there and everything, and like small art galleries run by people who kind of like have interesting issues. It was a bit of a kind of like hairy place to have your gear or your person, so I kind of like I've got the t-shirt on as part of that whole I'm surviving the squat kind of thing. But yeah, it's we've still got Stephen. Stephen's over on the left there. He's still with us, but the other two guys are gone. It's like when you show pictures with a lot of dead people in them.
I'm the same way. But you kind of get used to it a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that some people say, "What do you see in this picture?" And I'm like the kid. I see dead people. That's what I see when people show these old pictures, because we cannot turn into the people who go on about the 1960s and Pink Floyd and the Byrds and Grateful Dead and no, we've been given that experience. Why the hell would we want to do that to anyone else? I don't want young people to be smothered in our stupid nostalgia.
I am totally lost in nostalgia sometimes. I think it's a beautiful thing. For instance, no one can ever take away the memory I have. Here we go. Of the first time I heard Since the Accident.
Yeah.
No one can take the memory away from that.
No.
That is something that like as we say, we're hoping a student will step forward and play something and make it stand back. Well,
yeah.
This is what I love about this album, is that it like barely has ever happened to me again in the same manner. And it's like the whole experience was so overwhelming that in those days you could just reach out and write. And so you wrote me back. And
Yeah.
I've done this a few times. We had a little bit of a correspondence, but the
Oh,
things
yeah.
that you say,
I've still got the bits of paper with Dog Cough Productions written at the top of them. Don't worry, yeah, I got that.
I loved it in this how you said, we've hit a new resonant note in some way. No, we didn't use any computer sound storage since the accident. Only tape loops. Fairlights are about $24,000 each, and not a very clever way of going about things. On the next LP, you'll begin to hear some digital stuff. We've just got into the studio, but we're going to be careful to avoid the bullshit that surrounds that sort of machinery. We do use computers and video synthesizers for visuals, but we prefer to use home-built equipment for more fun. Tom, that's in 1984. Yeah. Is that something that you would maybe say to your students now?
Look, the dialogue, but the conversation's different now. You have in your hand a incredibly powerful computer, and everyone has this, and the conversation is to say to people, you have this incredibly powerful computer that you use to talk to your mother with, but really this thing is able to produce an enormous amount of stuff. But even, you know, on the level of you know, I've got all these sort of odd bits and pieces around here in the studio, but you know, even a piece of junk these days has far more power than the sort of things that you. On the other hand, you would also have this really sort of tiny, shitty mono synth, and you would just do this incredibly. You would know that thing so well that you could get the best things out of it. Whereas now it's kind of like, more garçon, bring me another synthesizer, bring me 5 more synthesizers. I don't have enough synthesizers to be able to like do something. You know, you have one. Let's just take that energy of the excitement of being given ability. There's probably a term for that I can't quite get right. To be enabled by this equipment, and apply it to the equipment which is around now. So when a kid comes along to me and says, I want to try to do this, or I want to try to do that, we look at what he has or she has available to her, and we say, let's start here. Let's try doing this. Let's work on. I mean, obviously, when I was teaching under the lockdowns, I've just finished a series of classes I was doing, and most of my students were in Shanghai, and they've been locked down. And so I'd say to them, you know, I need you to record something, and they'd have to go out on the balcony maybe, or use pots and pans, or do whatever they could. This is good. This means that you can make things with pots and pans and a mobile phone. You can do it. And that's the spirit that we should be handing on, not the kind of like, you know, we did all this shit. It's like, you can do it too. Yeah, well, that's a joke about when I was signed up by EMI, and they orchestrated. When you published music back at the time, you actually had to have sheet music.
Yeah.
And basically they paid some poor bastard to like write sheet music for all of the album. You know, like serious, like he had to transcribe all the music for when we signed up. And I said, why don't we do this instead? And I handed that in, and I never got a reply. So I just stuck it in there instead. You know?
I'll never forget the first time somebody talked about a sampler to me, and they said, you can use a basketball as a kick drum. And actually, that was the exact word used. It was used by Gary Wright, of all people, the Dreamweaver.
Yeah.
He was talking about it. But you were already had the basketball in there as well. And, you know, that was like the whole thought, wow, I could use a basketball sound as a kick drum.
Because it's the sound.
Yeah.
It's not a basketball, it's a sound. And it's thinking with sound. So much of our thinking, so much of the way that we transcribe the world is done with vision. That's that, and that's that, and that's that. What you need to learn, or what I try to get them to learn, is to think with sound, not about people say, this looks like a bit of a problem, or I see what you're saying. They use all these visual metaphors, but try to change it into, I hear what you're on about, or that sounds interesting. Try to turn all of your intellectualizing into sonic form, and then you're able to navigate the world in a completely extra interesting way, you know, and beyond just vision.
What is it that, to me, and I think a lot of people that have listened to your music, consider these two albums like your absolute golden era of which, at the time, I mean, even if you listen to this now, I was listening to City Slab Horror just to refresh. Tom, it's just so fresh and just so. I mean, I'm being nostalgic, but like at the same time, you can't ignore when something is really done well with primitive gear and made to sound right. It doesn't have like all the tricks of Ableton or any of this stuff. Just, you know, it was handmade music.
Yeah, but thing is, this is the point. I think the greatest period we ever had was the period 2016 to 2018. In that period, we had a thing called Beautiful Arabic Surface, which was back in the day, radio stations would put all their stuff on acetate. So there was no tape recorders. So in the 1950s, if you wanted to play some sound back, you would play an acetate. And a friend of mine in Seattle, Stephen Jones in Seattle, had an acetate machine. So we actually collected all of these acetates, grabbed sounds off them, put them together, and made a performance that ended up on an acetate record, which we call Beautiful Arabic Surface. And because when we were doing Since the Accident and stuff, we had no experience with what we were doing. The thing about Beautiful Arabic Surface was it was the mature outcome of all of that exploration. That was like kind of, I feel that at that point, everything came together, and we did a performance. We performed it, and they made a radio show out of it. And so what you've got is radio shows used to use acetates, and then we made an acetate, which was then made part of a radio show. And the whole thing just sort of came together, click, in a way. I could have died happy at that point. That was really great. But the next thing came on was Donut, which was the CD that you could put on a record player. And so we're screwing with the whole idea of like the medium. You know, this is a medium, this is a CD you play on your record player, and it's all basically about music and stuff. And finally we get to a version 2, which you might remember, the thing, little box, which had a little wire rat inside it. And you had all these little tiles that you could assemble, and you could make this big poster of a big wire rat. And it was all entirely made up of little snippets of classic rock, right? So it was like this sort of classic rock radio thing. That's the one. That's exactly the rat. That's the rat. And you know, we you know, Tara made 200 of those rats. I think it went up to 250 of them, I think, at one point. And we put them in little boxes, and we got it all and stuff. So it became this entirely bespoke. It was a thing. It wasn't a vinyl record. It wasn't your traditional media. It was its own little media. And that was the peak of Severed Heads. It was at that point that Severed Heads didn't have to be anymore, because it had got to the point where, you know, Since the Accident was basically, this is where we launch. We launch from here. Well, actually, Ear Bitten's really where we launch from there. And then there's a whole bunch of up and down and doing pop records and, you know, top 20 singles and blah, 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 blah. And it bounces around in this film soundtracks and stuff, but that ends up in these kind of things which recapitulate that whole starting point and loop it around. And at that point, that's it. That's where I feel I can move on to other shit now. I don't need to do Severed Heads anymore. It's done. You drop the mic.
I don't know. why is it that youthful people pick up things, they pick it up really well right away? And it seemed like you were really well directioned, either in somebody that came along in your education or some sort of inspiration that helped you to understand all this? Or is it something that you studied on your own? Or what was the impetus to get you on board to approach things differently
I don't know.
Appropriately?
I don't know. I mean, you just have to have first of all, you have to have love. You have to love something. You can't. No one can just sort of intellectually walk into music. They have to have that cathexis with, and from the love comes the hate and the disappointment. I love music and I hear people desecrating it. I need to do something which shows this love I have of it. And then you find the language, you find the way of expressing yourself. If you don't come from that emotional point, you're never really going to be a powerful voice in music making. I was very, very lucky in that I was reasonably well traveled when I was small, and I'd been around Asia and I'd been to Europe, and in '79 I was in London, buying every goddamn record I could get my hands on, and from Rough Trade and stuff like that. There was a lot of lessons to be learned. So very, very lucky to be in the right place at the right time. Very lucky to be filled with a love of something, and also maybe a bit my mind is probably a little bit, I don't know what the technical term is for it, but I get very obsessive about things. And so putting all that together, it could be anyone, Gary Bradbury was somebody who had nothing but hard knocks, I think, he had moments, but he had a lot of hard knocks in his life. He was born in England. He was migrated here when he was small, against his will, I'm sure. His family was not well off, and his whole musical career was based upon, like, the first thing he had was a boombox, and he did everything with the boombox. He would record things on the boombox and blast it back. I think the first live show I remember he ever said to me he'd done was he went into a library with his boombox, turned it up to 100%, and hit the play button. And the performance lasted as long as it took for security to drag him out of the building. He and I were very, very different, but we both had an extreme love of what we did. And even if we would fight constantly, but we both had this desire to make the thing that irritated our brain all the time, that we couldn't get out of our head. It's like one of those things called an earworm, but it's not an earworm for a piece of music you've heard. It's an earworm for the piece of music that you need to make. That's what it was.
Did it start off like one of my friends used to call me up and leave like 30-minute phone messages that when I look back on them, they're the beginning of that other band, Hilt. There was Al Nelson. You remember Al. The phone messages he used to leave are now album worthy. I mean, did you guys, were you trying to provoke each other in some way with some sort of sound for each other first? Or was it something that you knew would provoke an audience?
Well, we definitely recorded what we needed for ourselves. I think everyone starts just by scratching the itch.
Yes.
And then other people were kind of interested in the itch. Like when we made Ear Bitten, we press up 400 copies of that, and 200 of them get burned in a fire straight away, and then it's whatever. And I spray painted all the front covers of the records and stuff. And it wasn't because of any kind of politics. It wasn't because we wanted to be well regarded or sell. It was just because it had to be. It was an imperative.
Yeah.
And the imperative was there because what the surrealists, I think it was, or the Dadaist, I'm not quite sure. No, it would have been the surreal. The senseless beauty of it. There's things I have around me in this room which I need to have because it's part of the. I don't know whether I suspect you have the same thing.
What's that?
There's just this sort of throbbing kind of like pressure on your head that requires you to have certain things and to do certain things, and you were compelled to.
I can get a sentimental feeling out of an inanimate object. I find that's kind of a bit odd.
Yeah. Like you probably heard about Blubber Knife.
Tom, look at this.
Oh yeah, I've got one of them. I got one of them somewhere. Don't worry, yeah, I got all that shit.
This backstage pass is as old as Rihanna.
Yeah, I got some pretty old thing. Have you heard of Blubber Knife? Was a cassette? Yeah,
I have it. I tried to find it so I could go like this, but it's
you do have one?
No, I do have one. I don't have Ear Bitten, but I do have Blubber Knife.
In the cassette box with all the.
Yes.
Oh wow. Yeah, because we don't actually we've only there would only be 2 in the world actually. Then.
Oh, then I don't have a real one. I have just the Severed Heads cassette that was made.
Okay.
Later.
Okay. Well,
I don't have one. I guess one of the originals now.
So the guys over in San Francisco, our pals over in Frisco, the Dark Entries guys, we're trying to build more of them. Tara did us a little mock-up here of one. So this is a
look at that.
Yeah, it's funny because it's a little scale model of one.
Oh, awesome.
It's not a proper cassette size, but yeah, this is the sort of thing that and I just wanted, in case you hadn't seen a Blubber Knife.
No, I have not seen that for sure.
Oh yeah, well we found one photograph of one. Gary made them with his partner at the time, Meredith.
Wow.
And there were 200 of them, and they were basically cassettes, spray painted silver. You put the cassettes in there. You would also shove extra cassette tape in there, and then you would rip television innards up, and then you would put the TV innards on top of this thing, and then shrink wrap the whole thing. And they would have them in record shops, and they basically hang on the wall, and every now and then one would fall off, and it was just a thing that kind of. It spoke of the ridiculousness of the whole thing from one end to the other. This TV set shrink wrap. Now, the fact that it was shrink wrap was really important. Anyway, so Dark Entries are sort of saying I'll think about it. I'll try. They might actually be able to manufacture some more of these things.
That would be awesome.
Before that, though, that we're talking about Ear Bitten. They're pressing up Ear Bitten again, but I'm saying they have to spray paint all the covers.
What about what is contained within this wonderful VOD box set?
Oh yeah, well Frank.
VOD. I got to big up VOD for a second because this is like one of about the third or fourth box set that I've got from them that is outstanding. So is this material that you're speaking about also contained on these 5 albums?
There's some of Blubber Knife, but Blubber Knife was one of the, that's really a kind of.
There's 2 versions of Ear Bitten that are on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was 2008 was a period in which we were shit. We would shit, every band, I don't know if you've experienced this, but certainly with Severed Heads, you are great and then you're shit and then you're great and then you're shit.
No, it's like that's what you feel.
No, we were shit. Okay. And that came about, that box set thing I designed the cover to look like a tombstone. Yeah, it's a tombstone in loving memory of.
I guess it has that kind of feel. I think the best thing about it is like your liner notes in here. Oh
Yeah.
my God, this is such a nice historical read of everything, but it's in your flavor that I don't want to give it away, but it's just so. Tom, you have an amazing sense of humor, and that's why I've always loved hanging with you and being around you. Every time we get together, there's just always the most fun stories and stuff.
Grab something.
Yeah, no, I if you guys can pick up the BOD box set, please try and go get it, because it's absolutely worth it. It blew me away. And Tom has turned into a sweater.
Yeah, hang on.
Tom,
Julie's records here.
the microphone is moving.
Yeah, because I'm leaning on it.
I think like Tom's getting jealous on the show and tell.
I got the
Tom, is it true?
Records here. Hang on.
Is it true that in Australia
I am coming back.
Is it true in Australia? I mean, you definitely had SBK come out of Australia. And is it true? Wasn't it true that you told me once that you used to help Graham fill skulls full of muck and stuff like that?
Man, I can't find it. Can't find it. No. So Neil Hill at SPK, Gary used to live with Neil. And so there's a lot of stories here. I'm needing to be very careful and pick and choose. Imagine there was a period where there's me and then there's Gary, and Gary lives with Neil from SPK, and I'm kind of hanging around a bit with every now and then I'm catching up with them. We did equipment swaps. We needed an open reel tape recorder, and they had one, and I had a mixing disc. So they played at the Brickworks. It was 82 or something, and I had a powered mixer, so I was able to go over there and help them. It was just like two bands and hanging around together, but they were quite different to us. They were very sensible band. We weren't.
Funny that also Nigel Ayres from Nocturnal Emissions tributes Graham Revell and SBK to loaning them gear to actually complete their first album. Yeah. So maybe they were somewhat helpful in creating all these great bands.
But it's actually a bigger thing than that. The number of people in Sydney that were doing the kind of thing that we did was not great.
Not a lot, I'll bet.
If you take yourself back to Vancouver, for example, pretty much everybody who was doing something would probably know somebody else in Vancouver who was doing something. Yeah, I mean, there was no wider interest. You had to go to see the other band play live, because that way they would come to see you play live, kind of thing. You know, we're talking early days here. But SBK were very much succeeding. They wanted to succeed. They wanted to be a band that had a lot of impact, and they would strategize and stuff, whereas we would just make fun of everything, which was kind of like, you know, so we're quite different in spirit. But I remember, you know, when Graham was working on Leichenschrei, he was I loaned him some stuff for that, but you know, he'd play me stuff. He'd go, "What do you think that is? What do you think that is?" And I go, "Are you murdering a dog, or is a seal backwards?" You go, "No, I'm rubbing two bits of metal together." And I go, "Oh, okay, that's cool," you know. And it was good, because even if we weren't kindred in our interests, we were into the sonic thinking. There was a lot of sonic thinking going on between the two. And then there was this other band, Fetus Productions, who were different, not the same one as the English Fetus. They were a New Zealand band. And so they were also involved in all of this stuff as well. And there were lots and lots of other people involved. Just some of us managed to escape the island, that's all.
Yes, I think you escaped the island first on June the 6th, 19. I think you were in the UK before you hit Vancouver.
Yeah. You
had gone to UK. You were on Ink Records. Wasn't that a part of Virgin at the time?
No, they became part of Virgin when we were there.
Yeah. Wow.
So I was going to be on this little label called Ink. And then Ink actually was part of something called Red Flame. And Red Flame got picked up by 10 Records, which was part of Virgin. So it was like Ink belonged to Red Flame, belonged to 10, belonged to Virgin, belonged to EMI, belonged to, it's like bullshit. The net result of that was, leaving out all the detail, is that we got released on Virgin on a few places, Germany and Australia. In Australia, we managed to get off Virgin because we put a lock groove at the front of the record. So the Australian version of Since the Accident actually has this lock groove at the front of the record where you put the needle down. And we got dropped pretty quickly after that. It was good. It was a good feeling. But yeah, we're it's like when you move a record label and they bought by some other record label, and now all your stuff belongs to somebody you've never heard of,
I think it was safe to say that on that visit over, though, that like you have to attribute you as an influencer to other people and the way history should serve it, so to speak, because when you came over and you joined us in the studio for Assimilate, it basically completely changed the way I kind of thought about a lot of things. Oh, Tom, we're so young.
Yeah, sure.
Young and
hair everywhere.
And hair everywhere.
And
look how young
Bill.
Ogre is.
There's Bill.
There's Bill Leap and
Bill.
In Mushroom Studios in 1985. Actually, it was on that trip. Yeah. So we went in there. What did you think when you met these Canadians and you go into the studio and then here we are? It must have seemed like, I don't know. Well, I'll just ask you, what was your impression? And you can be honest.
A lot of hair.
A lot of hair.
There was a style. There was a people wanted to appear a certain way. Whereas the rule was when we played live, whatever you put on that morning was what you wore on stage, which comes from the sort of early Human League thing about we're just standard sound workers. We're not anyone special. We just work with sound. That's all. Whereas you guys were very much about appearances and tribalism. And there was a certain tribal aspect to the costuming and that, which has done very well for you over the years, because I think that no one can really, let's be honest. The thing is that it's part of an identity, and people love music, but they also love an identity that can go with that music. I am a goth, or I am a punk, or I am this. And so it seemed very organized. It seemed to have a very sort of strong core to the whole thing. And at the time, also, it's the enthusiasm that you got out of someone like Terry McBride, who was, he seriously wanted to be the largest corporation on the face of the planet, like one of those dystopian movies. He was like, Network was going to open hamburger chain across the North America. I remember it was going to be Netburger. And all of that was kind of like, this must be what North Americans are like. They must be very sort of ambitious and organized and dress up in costumes so everyone looks sort of like each other, and sort of military. It was all a bit military. But when it comes down to it, it comes down to music, and so forget all of that and just do the music. And I have grown a respect for maybe the thing is that we sort of gave off this sense of we don't really believe in ourselves. And I think probably you can't expect anyone else to believe in you if you don't even believe in yourself. That's a bit of a problem there.
I don't know. I think I was always backpatting you, telling you that you are the king, you're the boss, and like I just love that you were the guy to say no. I want you to. This snare is going to be like a box, or this snare is going to be you groaning, or this. And the way that you would add like operatic samples in Chainsaw, the way
Edith Piaf
came about.
Do you want to hear a funny
fresh
fact?
Ideas, damn fresh ideas. I'm telling you.
You want to hear a funny fact?
Yeah.
Okay, so in Assimilate, we found a cassette of Edith Piaf, right?
Is that who it was? Yeah.
Yeah, and it speeds up and shit, but it also slows down. We slowed it down a hell of a lot, which is what they did for the soundtrack of Inception. So the soundtrack, the theme music from the film Inception is actually Edith Piaf being played at a really slow speed, and there's a lot of that in that mix as well of Assimilate. So
Well, it must have. I don't know. There must have been like I can only see through your eyes at the time because it was so. We didn't have the internet. We barely even could communicate or make long distance calls between these countries, and you guys. We bring you over, and in 1986, we embark on a tour that was like a complete pay your dues tour.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh yeah, you're in a van, barely a van. It was a truck really with the seat stapled down, and people thrown in, and committed we were. You and Stephen Jones and Pete Rivette Karnak hit the road. In 1986.
Yeah.
And
that is some hellhole in Europe. Because
by the time we got there, yeah.
I've got there's that bloody Ensoniq Mirage full-size keyboard from Italy where the keys stopped working. I'm trying to play. The reason I'm looking like I'm concentrating is about every third key doesn't work on that thing.
Oh yeah, but same with ours.
Yeah, because I had all my stuff stolen in Spain.
That was the Pay Your Dues tour plus, though, wasn't it? I mean,
but
it started here at the Hub Ballroom, and I just remember each phase of it was like, I mean, we had a good time. I remember, but damn, it was challenging.
I don't really think I had a good time.
Yeah. Okay, I want to hear this.
Well, no, I mean, look, you are kind of, it's kind of interesting to be overseas and touring around the place, and you've never been to Edmonton before, so that's interesting. I can say when we went back to Edmonton, it wasn't as interesting, but anyway, and like. But by the time we got to Europe, it was just like being beaten up. It was just being beaten up over and over and over again. And there was no point to it. It had no function. It wasn't as if we were selling something or building any esteem or anything like that. It was simply just doing this because that's what you do. And that's the most stupid reason to do anything. And then we came back to America and it was fine. I mean, in North America, it was fun, but the European part of it, I think I'm going to be psychologically, I think I have been psychologically damaged since 1986. I think it actually, I was a very, very happy, not happy all the time, but you know what I mean? I was kind of like, the world was an interesting place. And I came out of that. For a long time afterwards, just not, and still now, not a happy person. And I would try to encourage people, younger bands, don't do that shit.
Oh, it's so funny how many people I've had, and we've talked about, I would never recommend this to anybody. It's just over and over and over. But this is past tense. we're able to say it past tense. I mean, in those days, in 1986 in Europe, it was still the wall was still up. You guys went to Yugoslavia, and I remember that you guys had some traumatic experiences, and we went to Hungary, and I think it went a little smoother for us. But Pete Rivett-Carnac ended up getting in a fight because someone was spitting on you guys and treating you like punk rock, and he'd had enough, and so that left you touring by yourself.
And at one point, I arrive in Switzerland and play to 800 people by myself with a 26-inch television
and a few broken keys on the keyboard,
and a lot of the keys not working. You can.
Hey, Slash is wearing your shirts.
There you go. I've actually seen a derelict old man in a flop house wearing that shirt. So it gets out. Essentially there was that's things like that. It's stupid. It's the greatest stupidity to do things like that. It serves no purpose at all. And so we've gone back and we've done tours with much better organization, and we've come back to America. We went back and we played we went back to Canada, and we did Edmonton and Vancouver and Toronto, and what else we do, Montreal, and we went back, did that in 2017. And it was a lot better organized, but at the same time, it was still kind of like,
what?
I don't know. Pardon me?
It was better organized?
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'd rather be, the way because you got airplanes now for a start.
Right. Yeah. And then now you can carry your gear. It'd be a little more reliable. It's not so heavy.
Yeah.
And you don't have to travel in a truck.
No. But what I'm working on at the moment is like a broadcast, like a live to air thing. So I mean, Severed Heads is dead. I mean, I'm not doing that anymore. But I'm setting up what I'm calling a seance. A seance is like basically the old band can be represented in a specific live performance.
Nice idea.
Which will be broadcast.
Okay.
So no more flying around the place. It's now a matter of at such and such a time, there will be a live performance, and we'll be, that's Spain. Yeah.
Primavera Festival.
Yeah. But there's no point flying all the way to Spain to do a show when you could broadcast the show from Australia.
Okay, I got you.
It's silly. It's like a use of jet fuel. In the same, that's 2015 because I've got the pounds on there.
But there's no more. That's it. The last show of Severed Heads was it at the Met Cabaret Metro in Chicago?
Yes.
Or was that at the Adelaide Festival?
No, it was okay. Well, there's a couple of things going on here. The last physical place we performed at was at the Metro in Chicago.
Wow.
However, wherever we perform is legally Adelaide.
Okay.
Now I'll explain that because we made a promise to. Why is my brain not working? For some reason, it says Nick Cave, and it's not Nick Cave. Who the hell am I talking about here?
Nick Cave. He's from Australia.
Yeah, he's from Australia. No, who's that bloody who was the one that I'm thinking of? Because I'm thinking about too many different people. We had a deal where essentially wherever Severed Heads played, we were not. Oh, it was. Who's your mate who just moved over to? I've got this mental block here. Moved over to LA. English dude. Famous for Cars, and Gary Newman. That's right.
Gary Newman, of course, Gary.
Newman. So we made a promise to Gary Newman that we'd do our last show in Adelaide. Right. So I got this card here around the corner. We promise that we will never play live after Adelaide. Signed, me and Gary Newman, right? Okay. And then we got this offer. Oh, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do it? So next offer was for Adelaide. That was fine. We could go play Adelaide again because it was the last show was still in Adelaide. And then we got this other offer, and it's like, what are we going to do? And I said, okay, well, what we'll do is wherever we play live, we will declare Adelaide for that night. And so that was fine. We did that. So we played in Adelaide in Poland, and we played in Adelaide in America, quite a few Adelaides in America and across Canada. And so Adelaide has always been the last show. But this time, I think it's important that being a video band, being a band that requires the kind of setup that I've got behind me, we're going to broadcast it. And we're going to call it a seance. Because it doesn't mean that we're coming back. It just means we have a kind of mystical communication for it. There's actually a story behind it. There's a festival in Sydney, and they said, would you play live? And I said, we can't play live. We're dead. Right? And he goes, oh, that's a pity. I said, okay, look, we'll play live on one condition, that we can play live in a museum in the fossil room.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yes.
And he said, oh, that's possible. Oh, we could probably get you playing live with a dinosaur. I want to be in between a dinosaur and a piece of rock. He never rang back. So I said, doesn't matter. We'll still have our seance. And it'll probably be sometime this year if I can get my act together.
Nice.
You don't have to commute anymore. I can work with my band in Florida, going backwards and forwards over the electric pictures. Like I don't have to travel anymore. It's silly. It's jet fuel wasted.
But then we can't have our beer together and our discussion.
Yeah, well, on a personal level, of course, we're interested in traveling. We
gotta continue traveling.
We will still make it to Florida. It still will happen. It's just not in terms of music. It's in terms of doing fun things in Florida or in LA. I could see that LA was definitely a thing. Yeah.
I love meeting up with you.
Well, there you go. See, Halloween. Halloween is something that we desperately miss in this country.
Why don't they have Halloween?
Because we're not Americans.
Jesus Christ. I mean, I know a lot of people don't celebrate.
Yeah, and the seasons are reversed. We're coming into winter. So why would we be celebrating?
Okay, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, you see, Halloween's all about getting ready for winter. It's all this pumpkins and turnips and stuff like that, right? It's saying that everything will be all right, even though we're going into winter. But when Halloween comes, we're going into summer. We have Christmas in, one of the hottest days of the year, and it sprays fake snow all over everything. It's crazy shit.
Oh yeah.
But being a band now is all about broadcast. It's all about, like making things available for people to collect online. The one thing I'm never going to get into is NFTs. It's not happening. Yeah,
what's the deal with that? You're upset that you found a company basically using NFTs of your with your music.
Oh, that was just evil. They were scraping. That's how we do. But I've got to explain that place is right up the road from the American Embassy. So I'm doing that. Face? Pardon me?
Did you give him that face?
No, I didn't go near the American Embassy wearing that mask. No. But
are you telling me there's no
Tara's
stores?
mum lives just down the road from the American Embassy. You see, so we hand out candy along with all the spooks and gooks. And
so you're
stuff
trying to make a change, is what you're saying?
Yeah, the whole idea is to have the excitement of the new, and so I'm kind of like really interested in fun times, and you get fun times. You got to work for fun times,
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, the pandemic has been a real problem. It's been really harsh. It's been quite difficult. So like the idea was fly over to Florida, catch up with friends, record some albums and stuff.
Albums?
Yeah.
More than one?
Pardon me?
More than one?
Well, no, we did the EP. We did the Butch Crutch EP. You guys helped. Remember when we sent over a whole stack of these guys?
Right.
The whole the Tiki thing, right? So same as the Wire Rats, we had like a lot of these Tiki guys that went with the and you got a special glow in the dark rabbit Tiki. Yeah. That was because you were so helpful. Check this one out though. This is like the best one. This one.
Oh, look at that.
Like that. Yeah.
It's a nice one.
So we did the EP, which was fine. I mean, people kind of went with that. And then I was really excited. We did an album and it just yeah.
What is the last thing that you did Publicist then?
Oh, under my name, yeah. Under my name. I don't do any of that anymore. I don't. It's like
any of what?
Well, it's people just want old Severed Heads records. That's what they want.
Right.
Yeah, that's what, you know. Like I was trying to find some of these reprints that we've done.
Well, you can go on Bandcamp and buy.
Oh yes, I try to make
things. Yeah, that's the good thing about it.
It's not about gouging people for money. It's more about, you know, making sure that they've got opportunities to. You see, that's the thing. You see, like check out, you know, the whole Nillamox thing.
Right.
Like you can't be Sevcom when there's no Severed Heads. That makes no sense. You know, you had to move on from there. But when I moved on, it confused people. So I kind of like, it's now, you know, the old label and the new label. I don't know. I'm never going to get this stuff together. But just go up the top there. Go up the top. Are you actually on the website there? Yeah. Okay. Go up the top. Keep going. Click on anywhere on that. Yeah. And then you're switching over to Nillamox, which is kind of like the other stuff, the non-severed head stuff.
Oh, nice. See that, folks? How easy that was?
Yeah, and I'm doing that for free at the moment because, you know, I want people to hear some of this stuff. It's not all new stuff. You see how there's like the music servers there, for example, music servers 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
They were the stuff that went they were basically a whole bunch of Muzak albums, which ended up being bought by a film company and used in a film soundtrack. And essentially with that, the label, the film people owns those 4 albums. So I did 4 more. You'll see that there's volumes 5, 6, 7, 8. But I've got back the rights to 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 8 hours of Muzak in there, and that's a bit of a joke. That's been a bit of a joke as well. So I'm still doing new things. It's just that I guess we live in a period where people want. What do they want? They want
stuff.
But why? Why?
I guess that's the way it will always be. You know.
We didn't
consider it a compliment.
You didn't. You didn't go out and buy the Everly Brothers, did you?
No, you're absolutely right.
Okay. It's the same. It's 2022, right?
Yeah.
1982 is 40 years ago.
Think about that.
Now, if you take 1982 and you go back 40 years from that, you're in 1942. It's like the Andrews Sisters, the Glenn Miller
Isn't that
Band.
crazy? I do that all the time. I get stuck in that mathematical conundrum where I want to say, yeah, exactly like you're saying. This would have been like us talking about, you know, Benny Goodman.
I mean, I love that shit because I was raised on it. But at the same time, I'm so glad that we weren't still listening to the Andrews Sisters in 1982.
Me too. No,
right? And it's okay. Old people, fair enough. Old people, yeah. But when a kid comes up to me and starts talking about Led Zeppelin, I just want to, you know, not him or her.
I mean, the thing I liked about the music when it came out, when we were able to discover it, is it really had to be discovered. You felt like you had something unique, and you tapped into something that not many people knew about, and you wanted to keep it like special to yourself in that sense, and really embrace it. And I see that's why people got so involved and got so invested. But Tom, I was really not faking how much I love your music. Honestly, the first time I heard Since the Accident was more life-changing to me than hearing the Sex Pistols.
The Sex Pistols was great because you could come behind your dad when he wasn't watching and shove the headphones on with the Sex Pistols. I love that. I used to do that all the time. It was great. Look, it had, Since the Accident came from Karl-Heinz Stockhausen. That sounds really pretentious, but it's actually, Stockhausen is the funnest person. Have you ever heard of the helicopter? I think it's called the Helicopter Quartet, where they put 4 people in 4 helicopters, and they're playing a piece of music, and they're flying around in these helicopters. And Gesang der Jungler, the songs of children, or Contact by Stockhausen. These are just amazing. Like
Contact is life-changing. I think everyone.
Yeah, it's just fucking great. And
nothing like it.
Then you got Carl Stalling doing all that Bugs Bunny stuff. You know, all of that incredible use of orchestration to cartoonize what you're seeing on screen. There were people doing tape loops. You know, Steve Reich come out and show them 1960s. You've got so many people who are doing great. All we did, nothing new. It's just that we were kids doing it. All that happened was, instead of being an academic, professional, respected artist, we were a bunch of kids who took on that stuff and made it our little noise.
I don't know, because like then we would be forced to look back and see it for what it was. But the fact is, I still look back and see it as being a very well crafted achievement. So it's kind of weird.
Influences. All we do is we take these influences and we connect them in new ways. It's a Lego thing, you know. Carl Stalling and Stockhausen sort of click together makes a different format. So it's a synthesis. I mean, people talk about synthesizers. I mean, when you take different kinds of cultures and musics and stuff and you jam them together, that's a kind of synthesis, which is interesting. And, you know, like, I think what kids are trying to do at the moment maybe is they're trying to take something like Led Zeppelin, and they're trying to take something which is going to be like, you're trying to connect things together that don't quite connect. You know, one of these things are not like the other one happening. It's probably, though, that we revere these things too much in a way. Like you know, like with Stockhausen, I just use Stockhausen as a way of getting funny noises. You know, like I didn't go, oh, it's Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, I better not touch that. It was more like, oh yeah, let's grab this shit. And probably the kids are going, oh, you can't do that with Led Zeppelin. Leave Zeppelin alone. Whereas that's what when I made Aversion was grabbing Led Zeppelin and grabbing, you know, the Beach Boys. Like a lot of Aversion is like bits of Beach Boys and Led Zeppelin, all that stuff being mangled and tortured and shoved together, because I don't give a shit about that music. I really do, but I'm pretending. I'm acting as if I don't give a shit about it. It's just the carpet that I'm cutting up into squares here. You know, that's what kids should be doing. They shouldn't be revering anything. They should have that punk feeling of, how can I fuck with this?
Well, I think that's what's so maybe attractive about like your era of Severed Heads is that it like I've gone back and listened to Led Zeppelin in Through the Outdoor, and it has not aged that great.
Yeah,
I've gone back and listened to Since the Accident, or you know, any of these albums, and I've also said the same thing to the guys from Bourbonnais Quack, to Simon Kraft from Bourbonnais Quack, or to Nigel Ayres from Nocturnal Emissions, I think like somehow over time, these albums are just getting better. And I love that about things, that they get to a place and they show for what they were, still a certain consistency. So I don't know. I got to
There's
pay
a
tribute to
struggle.
you.
It's about this microphone's slowly. It's the struggle. If you're Led Zepp, you're not struggling. You were at the beginning, but by the time these classic albums come out, you've got that whole record company thing going on.
Right.
I think the albums that you're picking out from things I've done, the albums that you're talking about by other people, these are done in a bit of desperation. They're like, we're going to put this album out and we're going to try and make it fly, but we have no way of knowing whether it will or it won't. So fuck it, let's do it. It's that kind of like, we're going to fight this one, win or lose. Whereas I guess Led Zepp is kind of like, well, we're doing pretty good here. We don't have to worry too much. It's possible that's what's happening.
I find myself kind of like, I can get high from listening to your music, just because it has a certain, like, what I was noticing on CD Slap Horror was the choral voices, how fucking amazing they are. Forgive my French there. But I think I remember in those days that the way that you would take a sample would be on a looping delay, and you would just click that bypass button on and off. And you showed me once how you tune that choral voice. It was like a 2-second sample on the chord delay, and you would hit it on and off, and it would be like, So
it was an Ibanez rack.
Yeah.
You could put a trigger in the back of it, and it would either record or it would play back. You get like, half a second or something. It was just like
so good though.
Well, that was, but it was the novelty of it. A digital sample. I mean, it was like tape loops they're great, but you really, I don't want to ever make tape loops again. I'm over it. Thank you very much. I've got better ways of doing it. But, oh no, I'm not interested in tape loop. I mean, to the extent I went back and bought a couple of tape recorders and did a bit with them, and I thought, Jesus, this is a pain in the ass, and I'm not really getting anything out of it. It's an affectation. I just gave them to Gary, and then I don't think he used them either, so they're probably in a tip by now, I'd say. Yeah, but it was also the fact that to be able to take a sound and use that as a note. When you take a sound and you make it into a note, that whole process is alchemical. Some of the information in that sound, the fact that you pitch it up and down, transforms it from being a capture of something into a voicing of something. There's too much to say here for me to really say it quickly, but the thing about the Ibanez and what you're hearing there is that alchemy taking place. Here is something I expect as a slither, but it's become actually the actual event itself. And sampling is, I think sampling is something. There was a period where sampling hit a real high around about the time of the Ensonic ASRs and where you would labor over a sample. You would sample something and you would really muck with it, and it would be a really important thing. It might define a whole song. The song might be here, and then you put this one sample in there, and it just jumps up. And I guess it's too easy now. Samplers aren't.
Is it too easy? Is that what it is?
Well, people don't think about samples anymore because you can just start up your DAW and it'll record like 6 hours. You're not trying to cram it into that 2 seconds of RAM that you have.
Is this still going?
No, that's all gone, that stuff.
All gone?
No, not all of it, but a lot of it's gone. The Origin's gone. MS-2000's gone. The Roland stuff I keep. I like Roland stuff.
I mean, I can kind of see that you kept that. Is that a Roland Super Jupiter up there?
Yeah, he's doing good. Yeah, he just got a service. He's doing well.
Oh, good.
He's doing fine. that's because I owned one back in the day. So,
Yeah.
you don't need all that shit anymore. But yeah, I got rid of the MR rack. The rest of it I've still got.
TG77,
Oh, yeah.
it's turned on.
Yeah, it turns on. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I got all that. Gary, when poor old Gary passed away, he had all my old MS 50s, and stuff. And so it came back to me. So you've got that modern Korg up the top there. I got rid of that piece of shit. Jesus Christ. And
Come on, that thing probably sounds great.
Not that great.
I've never seen one.
Oh, well, I've got a YouTube video of me actually playing it along with Othello by Shakespeare. Yeah, well, that's right. You see I love Behringer because because I mean they make really terrible mixers that blow up and you have to throw out and get another
horrible mixers, horrible.
But that thing is it is removing all of the magic pixie dust from the whole analog synthesizer thing. I've got one of them. It sounds just the same as a bloody Moog. It's cost me about under $1,000 Australian dollars, whereas a real Moog is like 18,000 Australian dollars. I mean,
oh yeah.
This is the new music is not going to be made on great big expensive old elephants.
I agree.
And I love that. Yeah, that's. But most of the stuff I've got here is. I write reviews of all this stuff. Yeah, that's gone. That's
good.
gone.
I'm glad I got rid of mine too.
Yeah, well, I've got a much better thing. The new Korgs, the Op 6.
Oh yeah.
The Op 6 is a beautiful thing.
6.
It's a beautiful thing. It's. Oh, I gave that Stuart. Yeah, he's got that. I like something like a Christmas tree.
Big up Stuart Lawler. No, it's so it's good to hear you got rid of that. Actually, the MPC one is really good. I don't know if you've tried one. It's cheap.
I got an MPC Live.
MPC Live, yeah, it's excellent.
Yeah, I got that.
So
you see, the thing with gear is, it's all about your relationship with it. It's something can be really good, but if you don't feel the continuity with it, then it's useless. So
I love the Man Cave 3 Man Cave reviews.
The Man Cave is really kind of like trying to blow up all of that sort of wood bullshit. See, this thing, for example, right? Everyone loves this thing. I hate it. I just hate it.
Yeah, everyone does love that thing, don't they? I mean, what was weird? I mean, Dre brought it over and I played with it for for a bit, and I thought it was like a toy. Whereas, like, I can honestly say, Tom, I'm surprised you. What do you think about the OP1?
I've never played with one.
You need to.
It's too expensive.
It's expensive, but there's a reason why.
No, but it's culturally, if something's too expensive.
Yes, I agree.
It means that it's not actually part of the conversation, and like the whole Man Cave thing is about the conversation that the. See, look, I'll show you something good. Hang on a second.
I'm excited.
Yeah, there you go. Now
I've been wondering what this is the whole time.
That's right. Right.
I'm glad I'm getting an explanation.
Now, it's going to be hard to try and get this working. I'll just turn it on. Here we go. Now, check this shit out.
I'm not hearing anything.
This has got more to say about electronic music than most of the shit that people have in their studios, I think. And it's
I mean, I'm with you all the way. What do you like things that are like, what do they call it? Circuit bent stuff? Is that circuit band? Is that just
No.
That's just regular.
I don't do modular, and I don't do circuit bent, because the thing I really like about musical equipment is that it's a dialogue between you, the user, and the intentions of the maker. So like when I buy a keyboard, it's like going to a new city. I want to walk through Paris and explore it. I don't want to design my own Paris. Okay, I'm interested in the good and the bad and the suburbs, which are great, and the slums and all of that stuff. That's really the thing that's interesting for me, is like it's somebody else's conception about how music would be made. And so the idea of like getting all these modules and putting them in the way you want them is kind of like a caravan park to me. It's just not interesting. And circuit bent is like, I don't need to circuit bent that thing. It's a beautiful thing already. The toy is like, toys are very important things. I treat toys very seriously, and I don't see a toy as something that I can turn into a professional object. It's a toy. And you know, half the stuff in this room is sensible, and the other half of it's just toys. But when I say just toy, I mean it's a thing that has its purpose, and I keep coming back to this word, the love of things. If you love music, if you love toys, this love, this cathexis, this feeling is the thing that drives all of what we do, not the technology, not the interfaces. And so there can be things that like I've got this Hydra synthy thing.
Oh, those are great. I like that one.
See, that's the thing. I can't get into it. I just can't get into it.
Just hit the random button over and over. And turn down the percentage from 100 to about.
You heard it here, folks. This is how musicians do things. They hit the random button over and over again. Yeah. No,
that's why I like it. Turn down the percentage, Tom, down to 1% on the oscillator, and turn down the rest of the randomization to 0 on all the rest of it. And then hit random, and then each time you'll get a different sound. There won't be 2 off the chart.
See, I'm like, the reason I like the Op6, the Korg thing, is that it gets away from this idea of there being an oscillator that goes through a filter that goes through an amplifier.
Nice.
It gets rid of all that. I mean, FM always did. FM, there's no filter, there's none of that. But the thing about the Op6 is that each of the operators, there's 6 operators, can be a filter, or it can be an amplifier, or it can be an effect. It can be, so it really is something where you say, I want to have an oscillator here, and then I want another oscillator to do that. But then I've decided that this next one will be a filter. And so it is that kind of modular thing in a way. But the thing that I think, I mean, I agree with Brian Eno. Brian Eno was the guy who was really into the FM synthesis. He was really into the X7. He had 3 of them, and he would tell the difference between each of the iterations of it because of these slight differences. And he said the thing that he found that was interesting about that was you didn't have to decide in this sort of like 1, 2, 3 where you're going. Like, I'm going to do oscillators here, and then I'm going to like filter it that way, and then it's more on the level of like the flow will go in whatever direction it needs to go. And so I really appreciate that kind of thing in the Op6, the way that it basically doesn't. You can start off by saying, here is this sound, and I think, you know what, I'd really like to put some sort of distortion here before we get to the filter, or I'd like to actually put the reverb before the filter and then have it go through another reverb. You don't have to. So it's that's the sort of thing that I'm kind of I like about having bought like hundreds of these things and then sold them again.
Yeah.
You get to this point. where you're kind of like, and it's also, there are like traditional, I mean, I've got this Ultra Nova here as well, which they don't even make them anymore. They kind of came and went, and they've got the little mini Nova. And it's a very traditional thing. It's not something which has got much great press or anything like that. But the thing about Novation is they make really interesting sounding things. There's nothing particularly, if you read it on paper, you don't go, well, that's amazing. You just go, oh, that's all right. But when you actually just start twiddling with it, it just sings. And I like the fellow that built the Oscar, and he built the Wasp and all of that stuff. And then he comes up with this, it's on the floor over there, the base station. And the base station is kind of like all of that history. It's somebody's history. And I love that, the idea that here is this person and they built these things over all these years.
Yeah.
And they're like an artist, and they're exhibiting their paintings like on a regular basis in galleries. And this is the latest painting that they've done. And I'm really excited to see, hear
consistency on that
level.
level.
But then all the knobs rotted off it. And then Novation had to mail out a whole new set of knobs for me, because that's Novation. That's just the way they are. You know, the knobs rot off the thing.
So was there no reason to hang on to the Oscar then?
Oh, I got rid of that shit years ago.
Yeah. But you say that you don't like that sin. You did you ever have a Wasp?
No. I bought the Oscar because I was desperate for something to perform with in Vancouver.
Oh, I loved that when you brought it out of that suitcase.
Well,
there's an Oscar.
Yeah, but it was cheap.
It was
that was
cheap.
the thing.
Now it sells for like $10,000.
Oh yeah. It's not worth it, but it was cheap, and it was number 97. It was number 77. The serial number was written on the bottom in biro. It was number 77, and the guy at the shop said, "Oh, I used to belong to John Fox." And I said, "Okay, that's a reasonable. I'll get that one." Yeah, and then it wouldn't fit in the suitcase, so you actually had to unscrew the rubber bits off the sides of it.
I remember,
to get it in the suitcase, you know. And then as soon as I got back to Australia, I sold the damn thing.
Really? Oh wow.
Heavy, and probably a couple $100 or something. But the thing is, base station sounds just the same as that, because it's the same artist.
Right.
The person who designed these things. And if you want a Wasp now, you can go get a Behringer one. So, you know, like, fine.
I saw a Wasp in Japan, and it's the first one I actually physically saw or I've ever seen, but it was too pricey. I was like, I'm not going to get it. But here we are being nostalgic about synthesizers. Yeah,
well, that's why I don't like. I've got all these old things. I think actually in the corner you can see the old Korgs doing the thing. I don't know whether people could see that. That's the MS-20 and the MS-50. Actually, I can pick.
Nice. That's a nice duo.
Yeah, well, that's
20 and the 50.
That's sort of like some of the
50's worth some serious coin.
Yeah. But that was the problem with that, was I had that stuff for so long. I owned those things for so long that I just run out of anything to say with them. You can own equipment.
Did you get the sequencer too, the SQ10?
Oh yeah, it's down there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't need that shit. That's a stupid way of doing it, turning little knobs to try and make it. It's an arpeggiator, for Christ's sake.
Totally useless.
Everything comes with an arpeggiator these days. You don't need this stupid big knobby thing to, like, it's the stupidity of recapitulating difficulty. Yes. I must be a good musician because what I'm doing is difficult. Bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, the equipment I have here is it's about something which I need to hear in my head, rather than, oh yeah, I've got to have one of them. It's more like this is the sound. There's a JDXA over here as well. I love that thing. They're not very popular, but it makes the worst farts. Those
old ones are great.
Yeah.
So when you're going to record now, you're still using Ableton?
No, I don't use Ableton.
Thank God. What are you using?
Well, there was a period when we were using Ableton because for live shows, because you could trigger video loops along with that. I use Nuendo.
Nuendo?
Nuendo because I'm very much into surround sound. I'm not very good at it yet, but I think that everybody should be thinking about their music in terms of surround sound.
Interesting.
I also think that there's going to be a lot of pressure for people like yourself to rework your old music into surround mixes.
Oh,
Because,
wow.
like, well, Apple Music is all surround
Yeah.
now. And there will be people who will be, I mean, you've got these little buds, little headphones now, and you put them in your ears, and if you turn your head, you can hear the sound mix rotate around your head. So there's a lot to do there. And you can do it all with Reaper. Reaper is a brilliant piece of software. It's the one I teach on because it's cheap, it's effective, it's sensible, it does everything people need. But in terms of my using Dolby, actually having used Dolby encoders and stuff like that, I have Nuendo as my solution to that. Because it could be Pro Tools, and Pro Tools is something I have to teach. It's not something I want to use.
Scientology. It's all connected.
Yeah, well, I think Cubase and I really have used almost everything, and I got into Cubase, and I had back in the Commodore 64 days, I had the Card 32, which was the first of the Steinberg sequences. Came before Cubase, so I'm kind of back with the thing I used to use in 1982. God help me. Yeah.
So Nuendo's still sort of an extension then of that, then, I take it.
Nuendo is it's pretty much for film soundtrack. It's got stuff for dialogue and loops and stuff like that. So in a way, it's kind of I don't do too many film soundtracks, but I do think of a lot of the music I do as a filmic kind of thing.
Right.
But also, it's just that Nuendo came with the whole surround system built in.
What is that format called?
Oh, well, there's a couple of them. Dolby Atmos is the one that seems to be the most popular one.
Okay.
That's not so good because it assumes that you're in a theater and so that there's something in front of you that you're watching.
Right.
Whereas really for music listening, you should be just thinking about things as ambisonics. Right. Ambisonic is just a headphone format where you can hear things around you like that. And like, okay, you are somebody who is interested in sound. You're somebody who works in music. You're somebody who is involved in the whole currency of sound production. Do you have surround speakers in your house?
Oh, no.
Yeah. And that's the clip. No,
did you get it set up?
I bought them. I bought them, but my house is a little terrace house. There's nowhere that you could actually set up around speakers in this.
You got to be equipped to do that, and have a proper room to begin with as well that is acoustically correct. Otherwise, you're just wasting your money.
So, but everyone's got headphones.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it, and I understand where it's headed. So are you teaching people how to set up? You were saying, think about sound in a spatial environment. So when you're thinking and teaching on that level, are you teaching also how to approach music instead of in a stereo field? Approach it from the beginning and with this way of thinking?
I have to sum up a whole bunch of politics and stuff to answer that question. I work in fine arts. Music lives over outside of fine arts.
Nice.
However, sound can be part of fine arts. Now, you don't need to know and remember any of that, but so I don't teach. That
makes perfect sense.
Well, it's just politics, really, but I teach sound. So it's sound. Sound can be part of fine arts because, for example, installation work. You might have an exhibition where the sound environment is part of it. You may make a film or a multimedia thing which has a soundtrack. So sound can be part of that. However, music is not I'm not supposed to teach that. Of course I do, but I'm not supposed to. First year, you are given a chance to work with just making a kind of radiophonic work. That's the first thing you do. So you make something which might be broadcast on radio, a radiophonic thing, just sound. Then the next thing I'll hit you with is this sphere thing. So you basically can rotate the sphere on the screen. It's a free system which you can get from online and stuff, so no one has to pay for anything. But it works with Street View, and we're all used to Street View. We all understand Street View. So that idea of being able to look around you, I don't have to explain it. I just say it's like Street View, and everyone goes, ah. It can also be about where you live somewhere in the world. If you're in Shanghai and you're in lockdown, you can still make a 360 of your room or where. So you don't actually have to go and build something which is site specific. And then the last thing we do is a film soundtrack. So here are 20 different videos. Pick one and make a soundtrack to go with that. In their second year, they get to do the ambisonic thing. So they get to do the speakers and they get to do all the binaural and all that sort of stuff, because that's like what you would do if you were setting up something for an art show or something like that. You're dealing with a physical space. Also, when you play live, how does the sound change when you play live? When you record a piece of music for an album and you record maybe backing for like a live show, the live show backing has to be much simpler, much more less colored, because it's going to be in all these different environments. That's the sort of thinking that they get. And in their third year, I'm going to talk to them about computer game soundtrack, about how you have event-driven sounds. And then we get into they can make their own final work, which is usually a film soundtrack. They usually make something which is a film. So it's kind of getting to where we are in the world at the moment. After all, we still have Netflix. So we're still film-based, right?
Yeah.
Netflix is Dolby Atmos. So if you're actually going to be making something for Netflix these days, you would deliver a Dolby Atmos soundtrack with it.
Wow.
The kids need to know that, because that's where they're at.
That's what you need to know. That's the requirements.
Yeah.
Well, I happen to know, and thank you for all this, Tom. This is a great way for people to open their doorway. But yes, I happen to know that you're onto something that not many people in Australia probably think about as much as you, and that is, why doesn't Australia have a theme park?
We have over the entire island a population about of that of New York City. So yeah, we don't have a theme park. That we have a fun park, and that fun park's been there since 1934, I think it is. I have to look at my hat. So we have one of the oldest fun parks in the world, and it's on the waterfront. And there were ones like that in LA, obviously, and in Coney Island in New York, and all of that sort of stuff. So you've lost pretty much all of those, except for there's one in Pennsylvania, and there's, I think, another one. Dollywood's got a few sort of older stuff, but we just don't have a population where you could have a big theme park. We do have one. Pardon me?
You would think they would. They'd have a good day down under Disneyland.
Well, we have a place called Movie World, which is part owned by Warner's, which is up in Queensland. It's a reasonably sized park. It's not Disneyland size, but Disney goes where the population is.
Yeah, I guess that's so.
Well, Shanghai and Hong Kong and
Tokyo.
Yeah, there's just not enough people here.
So I kind of felt like you were going to be the guy that if anything was going to come about in Australia, it was going to come about as a result of you and your efforts. Yeah,
all I need is a few $1 billion. That would solve that. I'd get Elon Musk to give me some,
some funding. That's appropriate now, and especially with today online. It is a possibility, but Tom, I support you on that, and I know that you have a pilgrimage usually to theme parks to actually study them.
Yeah, we're trying to get to Orlando
Was that the reason you really were coming to Florida?
No. If we could do Orlando, then we could do Clearwater as well. I mean, Clearwater's where my lot are, but
Yeah.
right in the middle of Scientology. A bit of a problem with that. That whole thing, which I really can't talk about. But the other thing with Butch Crutch was is about their relationship with the local church. That's all I'm going to say. But there would be a mixture of Orlando. Orlando was where they're going to be the fun bit, and then Clearwater would have been the work bit. But we might go to Japan instead.
Oh, nice. Let's meet there.
We don't know. Japan's still closed.
Yeah, it's closer. It's closer for you guys to go there than it is to come over here, right?
Yeah.
Well, then
it's also the problem with Florida is it's full of lunatics as well.
Oh my God, even more so. Oh, I shouldn't say this too loud. Even more so now.
Yeah. So
sorry, people, if you're in Florida.
We are aware that the governor of Florida is basically, complete loop the loop. And some of the policies which are happening there at the moment, including the fact that they're trying to take away Disney's land from them, is anyway.
Oh man, I swear, we definitely must be living in a simulation with all the stuff that's going on in the world right now. It's just
the world's always. You remember how shitty it was in the 80s? It was Ronald Reagan and all that sort of caper. It hasn't got any worse.
In some ways that you're probably right, but it just seems like, I don't know. I didn't expect to see a war in my lifetime again like that.
Yeah, well, America's got to go through some shit. I mean, we've just had a change of government. We had an election this weekend. And the Labor government is in. We've had 9 years of Liberals, which are conservatives in any other situation. But the Labor Party doesn't have quite enough seats, so they're going to have to involve. There's a whole bunch of young professional women who have gone as independents, who've got in, who are basically about climate change and women's rights and things like that. And so they're going to have to form some kind of linkage between these two, and that'll be pretty good, I think. I hope it works.
Do you have a far left and far right down there forming as vibrantly?
Yes, we do. So our far right is called the Australia United Party, and they're basically vaccines, mind control drugs, and all that sort of stuff. And we have the Greens. We have the Socialists as well, but the Socialists don't get in. But the Greens have done really well. They've got 3 times as many seats this year. So I voted Green, not because I believe in the Greens, but I voted Green because I wanted the Labor Party to be pulled towards that side. And everything's pulling them towards that side at the moment, which is good, So, but we're a small country, so we can have that kind of thing going on. America is a very, very big country with lots of states and lots of people. And so it's impossible for us to transcribe our politics over there.
Well, just to top things off here, Tom, did you have a date or something you're looking to start these seances?
As soon as it's finished.
Okay, so you have a concept.
There's a lot of work involved. Yeah, I mean,
so it's a whole concept.
We're talking about presenting about an hour of live video.
Right.
And that will be generated on the fly, and there's a lot of work that goes into that. It's all based around 1982, so it's based around the period before we were recognized by anyone. That's the thought. So we've been doing songs from 1983, blah 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 blah. But from now on, I just want to go back to 82 and do that, and there's that, and then there's other things as well. There's the game that I'm working on. So there's a lot of stuff to do at the moment,
Are you under an NDA on the game?
No.
So do you have to compose in a format called AAF for that?
No. The game is I'm actually writing the game itself.
Oh, okay. What's it based on?
Okay, it's it's the 1939 World's Fair.
Oh, here we go.
It's a very complicated story. It's all up on nillamox.com if you want to, because it's quite a long document. But
Okay.
essentially, I'm going to sum up very quickly. In 39, the battle was between the modernists and the surrealists.
Right.
And the Salvador Dali exhibited in the World's Fair of 1939. At the same time, Le Corbusier, the great modernist architect, was in New York, and they were having this argument. Half of the park is going to be the dark park, if you can forgive that, the surreal, the underworld, the darkness, and the other side is going to be the brightness, the stupidity of modernism, the regimentation. And these two sides are going to battle it out.
Oh, nice.
So the architecture of one side will be based upon Dali and all of that stuff, and the other side will be these enormous kind of like 1930s skyscraper kind of things. There's a lot of work involved. I have to just finish a few buildings and see if I can get some people to help.
Can you draw upon the people that in your school situation to?
Only if I do it very officially.
Yeah.
Because you are exploiting people's labor, so you have to
Yeah.
make sure they get assessed for it and get some reward
Wow.
for it.
It's so very exciting. Your world is so very inspiring to me, Tom.
Well,
I
wish I could get other people inspired.
You do. I guarantee you've inspired people here today. And I thank you very much for taking the time to join us here and just share some of your wisdom, man, because you are, I mean, you don't like compliments, but you're a genius. And I love hanging with you.
No, I'll be a genius when I actually...
Tara, give him a hug for us, will you?
Yeah, she will.
Big love to Tara. And thank you so much for spending 2 hours of your Monday. It's Monday there.
Yeah.
It's not Sunday. It's Monday. For 2 hours of your Monday morning. Thank you so much, Tom.
No worries.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you, my friend. And until then, all the best to you and cheers.
Cheers.